Hey everybody, this is Amy Warden with Great Cake Soapworks. I just wanted to do a quick update video on how I make my goat's milk soap. I've changed my methods a little bit because I was not getting consistent results with the method I was using before. So first of all, I am no longer using goat's milk for 100% of the liquid in my soap, and I am preparing the goat's milk differently now as well. So let's start with how I prepare it, and then I'll show you how I make a batch. So this is the container that I get my goat's milk in from a local goat's milk farmer. They're half-gallon containers, and I used to pour them into ice cube trays so that I would have nice little pieces of frozen goat's milk, and it was easy to measure out. The problem was I would go ahead and put those chunks back into a freezer bag like this, but they would still get freezer burn after a while. So I've changed my method, and now I just pour the milk directly into the freezer bag. That way there's no air that gets in around the milk, and I just freeze it flat. So this is a half-a-gallon milk in a full gallon zipper bag. So I just squeeze as much air out as I possibly can. And then lay it flat in the freezer and let it get nice and frozen. And then when I'm ready to make soap, I just pull this out and let it just start to thaw enough so that I can break off pieces and measure it out that way. So the soap that I'm going to be making with goat's milk today is sandalwood, and I already made a batch of sandalwood soap, and this is it. The reason I had to chunk it all up is because apparently I forgot the castor oil. I went ahead and figured it out on SoapCalc what the super fat was without the castor oil, and it ended up being about 1.5%. So it's not lye heavy, it's still good soap, but it's not great soap either. I would like it to have a little more moisturizing, creamy feeling. So my solution to that is to whip up another batch of sandalwood and just add these embeds. As you can see, I did some fun design work with some elderberry powder and some cocoa powder, and had some really pretty drop swirls in there, but unfortunately we can't see those anymore. So just some fun textured cubes that are going to go in this soap. I've mixed up my oils here, and I put it in my really big pot so I'd have room for the embeds. And I've mixed up, well, I've measured out my goat's milk into this container and let it melt, and then I went ahead and tempered it as well. So it's now about 90 degrees, which is close to the temperature of the oils, and that way the soap won't get shocked when I add the lye solution. So all I'm going to do is add the goat's milk. This is half of the liquid that I've used, and then the other half I used water with the lye. So it's a super strong lye solution, and then this makes up the remainder of the liquid. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to the oils and get it stick blended together. As you can see, it doesn't want to really mix with the oils. It's a water with an oil, but it will mix. Put my gloves on, add the fragrance and the lye, and of course my goggles. So let's start with the fragrance. I like to go ahead and add it up front with the oils so there's no surprises at the end and I don't forget about it at the end. So to figure out my lye solution, basically I get the lye amount from the soap calculator that tells me how much lye the batch needs to fully saponify with the amount of super fat, which I use 5, sometimes 4% with goat's milk because there's added fats in the milk. And then I take that number and add just a little bit extra. So in this case, it was 12.6 ounces of lye, and I put that in 13.5 ounces of water. You can't have any less than the amount of lye, or your lye will not dissolve. So I like to add just a tad more to make sure that it does dissolve. And then I double that amount for the goat's milk. So I had 13 ounces of goat's milk. You can use any recipe that you like to make a goat's milk soap using the same method. The first thing I want to do is bring it to a light trace, and I'm going to pour just a layer of soap in the bottom of my molds. This is going to make a double batch now that I've doubled it. So I'm just going to pour a layer of this in the bottom of the molds, and then I will add the soap chunks and mix it in and pour the rest of the soap. Alright, I think they're all coated now, so let me go ahead and pour this into the molds. So the last thing that I'll do is just tap the molds down and cover them with plastic wrap. And I have been insulating my goat's milk soaps as well. So I will just put one layer of towels over the top, and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. So here's the soap, and I have a little bit of ash on top, which is fine because I'm going to be trimming the top off. This is the box, I guess you could call it, that my husband made when I first started. And it has the notch in here because that's how I used to cut my soaps. And the tool that I use is just a plain drywall knife. And this helps the soap to fit into my custom soap boxes. So if I have something that's really fancy and pretty and I want to show it off, then I just use my shrink wrap. But if it's something like this, then I don't mind trimming the top off so that it will fit in the box. You can see how pretty that is. The base of this soap that I made is going to discolor to a medium tan. So the embeds aren't going to stand out quite as much as they do right now, but I think that looks pretty neat. So I'm just going to finish trimming these up, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like when I cut them. So this is my cutter from soapequipment.com, and not long after I purchased it, they came out with the ones that are for the longer logs. So I actually have to cut my logs in half to fit in here because this bar will come down on top of it if I don't. So let's see what this looks like. That looks pretty neat. can see all the different kinds of embeds in there. Some of them look more like an in the pot swirl, some look like layers almost. That one's kind of a diagonal. So I think this is going to be a fun soap. I'll show you just a few more. Kind of reminds me of a crazy quilt almost, because there's just so many embeds in there. Alrighty.